layout for the Build-A-Page series as well as 30 days of sketches. Today's sketch was designed by Jennifer Cain. I just showed it to you at the beginning, and now I'm going through my page kits trying to decide which one I should pick for this particular sketch. The other thing that I'm doing is Tuesdays in the Attic, which is a series that I'm doing with Jackie, and we are following the Freaky Fast formulas from the scrap room. So I kind of wanted to pick one of my kits that maybe had a lot of papers to it so that I would be able to have lots of things to cut apart depending on how many different measurements were in the formula. So keeping all of that in mind, I decided to go ahead and pick this particular kit. This one has some of my not so favorite papers. Is that bad to say? I don't know. I don't love these papers. They're from Dear Lizzie. They're a paper pad. I think it was a Hop Eye pad from Michael's many years ago. And I've just never really been able to get it used up. I kind of like the papers all on their own. I use them as background papers, but I've never really been able to mix these patterns and get a layout that I really love. Everything that's left over is something I've struggled with. So I've definitely gone through the paper pad. I think I've probably had it for 10 years. I don't know if you guys remember how old the documentary collection is, but individually you can see these aren't bad papers, but the ones that are left over, which is probably 75% of the paper pad, I'm really struggling to use them. And so it takes a long time when the paper pad is just literally being used for background papers. And I really wanted to kind of challenge myself to pick out a few different patterns and use them all together on one layout. So that is what I've got going on here. And then I also have a picture of a kind of not so perfect picture. That's the theme for How to Kill a Kit with Style this month. And so that's kind of where that's coming from. But it is a picture of my daughter not feeling good. She was quite sick, and so she was all snuggled up in our bed, actually. And our sweet little Titus went and snuggled up with her because whenever she wasn't feeling well, he definitely kind of stood guard to watch over her, make sure she was okay. So that's what the picture is. And yeah, I'm going to put these all together, and I figured, you know what, when you have a really great sketch, it kind of helps as a jumping off point. And so let's see what we can do with these papers. And I actually really love how it turned out. It's definitely a different layout for me. But it was a bit of a challenge kind of putting this one all together. You can go see how I actually put it together in my last video if you want to watch the kit building portion of this video series, I guess I should say. So I took those two largest pieces and cut my circles out from there. In Jennifer's sketch, she has kind of a pattern background. She has a little bit of mixed media kind of up at the bottom and down, up at the bottom. I just said that. I mean, up at the top and down at the bottom. And then she has 3 circles. I'm only going to cut 2 because I want to incorporate some of these Freaky Fast formulas into here. So I'm taking my little 6x6 papers that I used or that I added into the kit from the Fancy Pants collection. I just kind of added these because I needed a little bit of a break for your eye. I needed something that your eye could kind of rest on. So these are all solid colors. I figured the gray and the black kind of go with all of the patterns and are pretty neutral. And then that yellow, there is yellow flowers in that one kind of busy flower pattern. So that's where the yellow came from. And so the measurements, let me see if I can remember them. There was a 6x2 and a 3x2 and a 2x3 and a 4x2, and then a 6.5x3, which I'm actually just going to make it 6x3 because that's what I have here, and then a really large 10x12. So I'm kind of considering these circles to be the 10x12. The one circle that I used, that I cut the larger one, is actually almost 10 inches in diameter, I guess you would say. And then the two circles together kind of take up quite a lot of this page, most of the page. So I'm just going to count those as my other cut, my larger measurement. And I've been starting to do that a little bit more working with these formulas. Is I'm using the measurements as close as I possibly can, but still working within my own stash and what I kind of have that I'm working with. So whether it's the paper size or just the patterns or how they all work, I'm kind of interpreting the measurements a little bit more loosely and making them work for me. So a few times I've cut all of the measurements from the same pattern, or, multiple strips of paper from the same pattern paper, that kind of thing. A couple times I've taken those measurements and then I've actually manipulated the shape so that they aren't rectangles, but they're something else. So I'm starting to do that and kind of play around a little bit with them, which I think is really fun and kind of the point. The measurements are the jumping off point. They're kind of that very first spark of an idea. And so essentially you take the formula, you cut your papers to those measurements, and then you just move them around on the page and try to see how they fit. But if you have another idea as you're working with that, or as you're cutting your papers, then that's what you go with. So it really is just that initial motivation or that initial inspiration to kind of get you out of your rut, or help to curb that blank page syndrome that some people get. So once the ideas start to flow, if you end up not using those measurements exactly how you thought, that's totally okay. And of course, that's what a sketch is too. So they kind of work really well together. The only thing, as I'm putting these page kits together and then trying to use them with the sketches and also with the Freaky Fast formulas, is just making sure that I'm picking the page kits that kind of have at least, some supplies that might work with the formulas and with the sketch. So, you probably don't even have to go that far. You could really interpret them quite loosely if you wanted to. So, did you see what I just did there? I just felt like something wasn't connecting for me with the patterned paper in the background. Everything just really looked so busy and so muddled, and I wasn't really, I wasn't feeling it. And so I thought, I'm going to take a risk, and I went ahead and I cut around these circles and kind of cut that whole chunk out and then popped it onto a white background. So now I still have my pattern background in behind my circles. I still have those circles themselves. And yeah, I think I like this a lot better. I think the white background just brings a little bit of calmness to everything, and I'm enjoying it a lot more. The other thing, because I was talking, I didn't get to explain to you all of the pieces that I cut that were part of the Freaky Fast formulas. That's what I used to map my photo, because I only had the one picture, whereas Jennifer has two of them in her sketch. I really wanted to kind of pump that picture up a little bit so I have lots of layers in behind it. And then that just created a really good spot where I could go ahead and put a cluster of all of the little stickers that I pulled out that are kind of, sick or illness related. So there's the little